Hi all, I'm Cullen Haynes, and welcome to a bonus episode we're doing today, Author Spotlight, on my dear friend Julia Taus. We'll be talking about her new book, The Space Between, and also a little bit about the creative process, writing our first books and releasing them, because I'll be coming out with one later this year too. So without further ado, can you please make very welcome Julia Taus from JT's Ideation Center. Julia, how are you today?
Colin, such a pleasure to be here on your big world stage.
Oh, come on. We've just got a modest 22,000 connections and many of them lawyers. And we're broadcasting live, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and anywhere you consume. But it's an honor to have you here. We've been friends for many years online, and we've given each other some help over the years and thoughts on what we're going to do next with our respective businesses. And now we're both venturing into publishing our first books, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of people tuning in that have got a book within them. They've always said, when I finish this, I'm going to write a book. And I think someone once told me, it was Les Brown, actually. I was watching a video and we talked about it offline. The richest place in the world is the graveyard or the cemetery, because that is where all dreams go to die when you go. And there's all the unwritten books, all the unwritten plays, all the unwritten songs, all the unstarted businesses. And that really struck me when I heard that for the first time. So I'm so happy to have you on and talking about the process, because I know you hand wrote your book like me, what it's like and what the next steps are. So first up, what's happened in your circle of influence? And tell us a little bit about JT's Ideation Center and what you're doing for the world.
Yeah. So my world over here, I'm transitioning out of, sort of doing two different things at one time, as far as working a full-time job and doing JT's Ideation Center. So this is the first time I'm full out just JT's Ideation Center, and it is scary. Unlike you, Colin, I've been doing the business and building it very slow and incrementally. A lot of people, especially in the taxes world, would call it a hobby. But I love that quote about the grave. But the other thing is you also there's a responsibility to being a storyteller, and you want to make sure that you don't put people in the grave.
No, that's a good point, right?
By releasing work that's not ripe for the tasting, so to speak. So it's a balance challenge that I'm exploring.
Fantastic. And what about the creative process entices you? Because I know you wrote it all by hand, right? So I'd love to get your thoughts on why you thought it would be a good idea to write by hand. Like I did it as well. I find the process quite exhilarating. But in a world of digital where everyone uses their laptop or smartphone or what have you, what is so important about putting pen to paper in a digital world?
I would think that the copyright lawyers in your circle of influence would be very interested to know why I did it all
Please.
by hand.
Yes.
And
yes.
that 100% because of computers and how this AI, machine has been building, and my instincts around it, right? So it's a complete control thing. As far as it is not recommended to revise a novel as many times as I have by hand. It's painstaking. But that first release of writing it out by hand, there is because you of all people know this, Colin. You're operating on so many different playing fields at one time, all the time, right? So if you're on your computer and you're writing, there's always going to be an interruption, one coming from one direction. Being able to just have a pen and paper, and there's a sort of, you get into a flow and a rhythm and a conversation with yourself that is, I always say it, where all the magic happens. Yeah.
Amazing. And in a nutshell, I'm not putting you on the spot, but what is the main theme of your book? What is it about? Is it relating to what you do, or because I know you're a master storyteller and you help others bring out those stories? What is the book about?
Yep. So it is not a complete novel yet. It is fiction, and it follows the journey of Estelle. And it's a coming of age story, a lot about female initiation, right? We talked about it in the Name Your Hero series, The Hero's Journey. Joseph Campbell covers this in his work a lot. There's natural initiations that we go through as humans, puberty, your first time having sex, your first boyfriend. And these female initiations are really powerful, right?
Yes.
And universal. So Estelle, it's looking at Estelle, who decides on an impulse to not go on a spring break trip with all of her friends that was planned forever, because a boy crush of hers that she's swooning over invites her very last minute to go on this ski trip. So she ditches her girlfriends, which is something Estelle never does, and goes on this spring break trip with a man that she's hoping is going to be her boyfriend. And there's a lot of expectations of a fantasy making brain of and then what really goes down. And I'll stop right there.
Oh, okay. You don't want to give it away, but I just wanted to remind everyone that we are live 12 p.m. Australian DST here. So it's great to have you on. Please put your questions in the comments, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitch, TikTok, and we'll try and answer them right now. But I'd love to also talk about, Julia, what is the Ideation Center and what does it mean to you?
I wanted to call it the creative laboratory forever. But people really scientists have a laboratory it was an offensive term. It didn't seem like it was going to go. But JT's Ideation Center is the work that we're doing there is all about stories. So on one side, it's an incubator for writers and doubling down on my strengths of plot and structure, using a system of how to get your work out there and get feedback, which is really hard. I'm running this, I'm testing this out with my work right now. So it is what that looks like, Cullen, is it's, the synopsis of the book using Christopher Vogler's Hero's Journey model. Act 1, all of it, which is 80 pages. It gives you a good sense of what the story's about, the writer's capability, a key scene in Act 2, and the grand reversal of Act 3. And when this gets distributed from your test audience, so you can test your story potency, how your story's penetrating, it goes out and there's questions throughout it, targeted questions, because feedback, when you say, oh, what do you think about this, rather than a very specific question, you get different, you're going to get a different value back from it.
I see. And that's what I want to talk about, because not many people like you and me are familiar with who Joseph Campbell is and the hero's journey, but maybe they are because they've watched so many movies and read so many books. And the hero's journey follows a classic mythos and story arc. I'd love to talk about what is the hero's journey and how does it play out? Obviously, it starts with an ordinary person, right? Regular.
Correct. And flawed.
And usually flawed. There's something wrong with this person, or there's something wrong with the situation, and there's a call to arms, or there's a quest that starts.
A call to action, right? Yep. And the hero is normally very reluctant, just like me jumping on this live, not to call myself a hero, but guys, that's also a part of it, is that it's a double layering, right? There's the hero's journey that's going out there in the movies and the stories we're consuming. And then there's the hero's journey of your own life, which, Cullen, I think you're a fantastic example of what you can accomplish when you put your mind to it, how you can self-actualize and, give back to the community like you do all the time, The Elixir, which will be your book, and I'm very excited to buy it.
Thank you so much there, Julia. And it means the world. And I will shout you out because we originally had we had a quick Teams today, and you said, "Oh, let's have a little chat on Zoom, and maybe we'll record it." And I said, "You know what? Like, let's take it to the next level. Why not just cut to the chase? Let's do it on StreamYard, beam it out to everyone." And at first you were a little bit ambivalent about it, but you said, "You know what? Let's do it." And I commend you because it's not easy speaking live to hundreds and thousands of people that are going to rewatch this on all the different platforms. But you know what? It's commendable to you, and I really appreciate your comment on me adding value. I just think it's easy for me to share and easy for me to put other people on a platform. I'm not the smartest broker in the world, and I'm not the oldest, but I do know how to use technology. Okay, and as Seth Godin says, I'd start. I find it easy to start things. So when you suggested that we do a little chat, I said, let's turn it into a live stream and let's beam it out because that's going to add the most value to the most number of people, because there are other lawyers out there, other people in your network that are thinking about writing a book that have got that in them, but haven't started or it's left unfinished. And all they probably need is to tune into this, hear your little tidbits on how to get it done. And the process of writing a great story, etc. And maybe that will push them a little bit further, because the world doesn't need another half-finished book. And it doesn't need another person saying, I'm going to write a book one day. You know what Tony Robbins says? One day leads to the town of nowhere. And you don't want to get to the end of your life. And you'll see your family sitting around you if you're lucky enough to get to that stage, and have all the dreams sitting around you that you didn't bring into the world, saying, why didn't you bring me into the world when you could? That gives me chills. I don't want to live like that. And I'd like to leave a legacy, not only through my my young son, my wife, and all my professional work, but I'd like to leave a bit of history in the LinkedIn book I'm about to produce. Like, maybe not many people will read it, but you know what? I'm going to add my tome to the stack of a lot of tomes out there. And by God, I've at least written a book. Let me know your thoughts on that.
A couple. Number one, LinkedIn. Let's talk about your book. Let's, what's the catalyst? What's the purpose, the framework?
Yeah, look, so many people have come to me over the years, because we started in 2018, May the 4th, which is Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. And we started at LHL, or Legal Home Loans. My business partner started. His name's Andrew Johnson. He's the Wizard of Oz behind the scenes. No one knew who we were.
You guys go on runs every day.
That's it. No one knew who we were. No one. We had no contacts. We literally started blind. We did know that we wanted to help lawyers self-actualize through finance to buy their home or whatever it is, their business, their car, etc. So we thought, what's a great medium? LinkedIn. It's free, and we can add value. And because over the last 6 years, we've been able to grow our network to such a point, we've been able to add value. We've been able to basically launch our business off of LinkedIn. So many people have asked, how do you do it? I see you do these yes/no polls. What's the science behind that? What's your message to reach out to people? So I was very much inspired by Robert Greene, who came out with the 48 Laws of Power, the art of, the strategies of war, the art of seduction, daily laws. He's my favorite author. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to create a book that I boil down all the laws that have helped us in our business and me personally with my personal brand, and put them into 23 laws to help you not only attract your dream clients, but build a following and hopefully attract a 7-figure income from it. Because what many people do when they get on LinkedIn is it's like a toy, right? Like a hammer can become a toy if you don't know how to use it. People use LinkedIn as a resume, or they post here and there. There is a science and an art behind LinkedIn. And if you do it properly, you will reap the benefits. Like, one of the laws is the 80-20 rule. Do not go out and sell. 80% of your posts should be educational, and 20% should be a call to action. So if you're posting 5 times a day like me, then 4 of those posts can be educational and 1 can be a call to action. If you're doing 5 a week, then only 1 can be a call to action, and the other 4 can, be the educational posts. The other one is the power of yes/no polls, right? So I do a poll most days, and instead of asking, "Is the sky? Do you like it when it's a sunny day?" I'm a positive person, but I reframe it and go, "Do you hate it when it rains? Yes, no." And what that forces people to do, it gets jacks into the emotion, and people go, oh, I hate rainy days. And so they get in there. So you'll notice that a lot of my polls engage people in a negative way because it brings out the conversation. And it's just those little framing exercises. So look, I've taken this, put my blood, sweat, and tears into it because hopefully a lot more people get value out of it. A lot more people can go, you know what? I don't mind Cullen, I don't mind his content, and I'd like to build my network and follow some of the things that he's doing. This is basically the things that I do every day, and it's boiled down into one book.
Has anybody read it?
Actually, a couple of people have read it before it's going to print. And I want to shout out Peter Hunt, who's a partner, a leading partner in law at McCabe's, and he's an author himself. And I really valued that opinion because he was able to, he's actually very technically competent on LinkedIn, does quite a lot. And you should follow Peter Hunt if you're not already, because he writes a lot on anyone watching. He writes a lot on theatre. He loves his theatre. So his content is not just law, but he also writes about what's passionate to him. But nonetheless, the point is, it was great to get a legal person's perspective, one of my tribe reading the book, get their thoughts on it, because that's my ideal client. My wife has also read it, and shout out to my wife, Emma Louise, because she also read it from a layperson's perspective, because she's both a darling mother and a fantastic teacher, but she's not on LinkedIn, as many teachers aren't. You don't really get on LinkedIn unless you're in the professional world. So she was able to see it from someone who doesn't use the technology very often, and that was so valuable as well. So those are the two people who have seen it first.
And that's it? Nobody else?
Nobody else yet, Julia.
All right. Well, that's awesome. And look at Cullen. I mean, I'm applauding you, right? Like you got your pitch down. You know exactly what you're doing. You know exactly how it goes to market. I feel really confident about, a friend asked me, who's a theater world. He goes, well, what do you think? You know? And I said, I think it's good enough to start the conversation I want to start, and hopefully attract the right investors, team. You know, this is me trying out to get as close to, a master editor as I can. And that relationship is really tricky, along with some other things. One thing I've been saying is you can't have the body without the heart.
Explain that. I'd like to delve more into that.
Without the heart.
Tell me more. What does that mean?
So in society right now, and I don't know how controversial this will be, but
please be as controversial as you want. This is a safe space, you know?
Oh, yeah. That's actually part of all of this. But anyways, in America, 2017, 2015, we had two big things happen, big traumas that came out. The Me Too movement and the Catholic Church, with everything that was happening with the young boys, which means that my parents' generation, there's a lot of trauma, sexual trauma that has happened, that it all came out within a 10-year span. But I don't think you just move right past it. And healing those traumas is really hard. It's not going to just happen like this. But how do you teach somebody to love? How do you teach somebody to respect and trust? The values that you have are hard if you yourself are broken and working through X, Y, or Z. And so this book is my very, vision of healing a womb, right?
And I want to talk about that because we talked offline, if you don't mind me bringing it up. You said you shouldn't write or talk about your experiences from the wound. You talk about it from the scar. And I thought that was a very interesting way of phrasing it, and an interesting way of phraseology. What does that mean? Not writing from the wound, but writing from the scar to you.
I'm gonna answer that, but I think you thought I said wound, and I'm saying womb. like a mother's
okay.
womb.
Okay.
Right?
Well, that adds a whole nother layer. Tell me more.
But writing from the scar, writing from the wound is a great segue. I got that recently from Todd Hartley at one of this 5-day challenges. And I walked away and I thought about it. And so much of my work, and I do think also the work of a novelist, is you have to straddle both of those worlds, right? You have to be able to embody and create and speak from both the wound and the scar. But so much of my journey thus far, not partnering up right. I haven't really found my creative team. It hasn't been fun for a little while. And that's something I want people to know at JT's Ideation Center. You come here, manifestation is fun. Your stories will be honored and treated with a lot of respect. And we're going to package it up and make money along the way. So I am, I don't know if that answered your question, but there you go.
No, I think you put it very, very delicately, and I think it was very illuminating the way you explained it. So thank you so much there, Julia. I wanted to, we're coming almost to the end of
Can I ask you this real quickly? I mean, you've just had a baby. You have another one coming on the way, right? Procreation, right? That is the essence of life, right? The womb is the waters. If you have dirty waters that just get worse because traumas aren't being properly addressed or healed, your outcome's not going to be so good. So this is really thinking from trying to do both a male, female, but very, it's a female character lead, how to think about those things and value and respect connection along with intimacy.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, let me tell you, like I was having this conversation with a barrister yesterday who's got a son, and he was saying to me, is it life-changing? And I said, oh my gosh, it's changed my whole focus, changed the way I work, changed everything. And he said something quite profound. He goes, because he's quite successful, this barrister, got a lot of assets, makes a lot of money, but he said, all that kind of falls away once you have a child, because you realize that the things that you thought were important before are not really as important after. And I know everyone says money isn't everything, but honestly, for me, it really is true. Like, well, I don't know what we did without little Benji, and I don't know what we're going to be like when we have this new little boy into the world in August. But it definitely makes you think more about legacy and your own mortality as well. And those things, not many people know this, but I've been keeping a journal ever since Benji was born, and even before. And I write little letters to him. And I find that very cathartic, because I talk about, today you had your first dance and you were dancing on your feet. Today you said daddy for the first time, and all those things. And I think for me, that's really special. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I just want to give it to him one day and say, these are my thoughts when you were first born. This is how special you were. But I definitely have become a lot more reflective and introspective, I would say, since having children.
And a childhood is so important, right? And so I already know it. I haven't physically, been there, but like, you and your wife have created a place where love blossoms. And what a great environment for Benji and his little brother to grow up in.
Thank you so much, Julia. Yes.
It's no small thing. It's huge. I mean, and it's terrifying to me, like, what you have to do to, raise kids is no small thing. So
True. And I'm very blessed, because I came from a loving family myself, and we had so much fun, but I never actually appreciated what my mum and dad did for work. I never actually thought about it. I just thought that they were out the whole day, and then when I finished school, they just home. You don't think about that as children, so it really makes you reframe your thinking as well. Even though you're working hard out in the world, they don't really care about what you're doing. They just want your time, right? And you don't want to have that.
And I got to tell you something, Cullen. Yeah. My dad, this is something I don't share very often, and it's because it comes with a stigma, or I don't want to say a stigma, but a pre-programmed thing. If I tell you my dad's a doctor, all of a sudden the outside world puts you in a different, arena. So I don't normally share that information, not because I'm not massively proud of who my father is, massively, but when I'm reflecting back, he was present. I mean, he worked his bum off, but he was coaching our things. He got home. He was an active part of our life in a way that I now, as a woman, have an expectation, of a partner that is reflective of, modeled from your parents. So I think that there's a lot of that work that we need to be doing and building as a community. And I don't know and I hope that this starts that conversation in ways that are also fun and relatable, right? It's
Makes
not
sense.
all doom and gloom in here.
No, it should be fun. It should be fun. And I've got a leading clerk who's one of our clients whose husband is a stay-at-home dad. And that is now a huge thing now. And I think that's fantastic. But one of the pieces of advice I got very early on when I became a parent is, if you're the breadwinner and you're coming home, the best 4 words you can say when you get home is this: how can I help? That's all you need to say. How can I help? Or the other variation on that is, put me to work. What can I do? And they'll be like, great, you can do this, 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 this. It's served me so well, those 4 words, because, it's so easy to go, I've got to get a shower, I got to get home, I've got to do my own thing. But that person, your partner, has been home looking after the kids all day, probably not been able to get out of the house. So you coming home and saying, how can I help? Honestly, 4 words changes the whole dynamic.
I love that. Yep.
No, absolutely. Closing thoughts as we're getting into winter or heading into your summer, as it were. Books, shows are going to become more important, especially, hopefully, books you're reading or listening to an audiobook. What is a recommendation that my audience and your audience should get into?
Yeah, so I just finished Good Girls Revolt. Good Girls Revolt.
Good Girls Revolt.
Which was based off a novel inspired by, right? Which is a model that I'm studying. Great, 10 episodes. Pretty sure it's Amazon Prime. And it puts us in the newsroom in the 1960s and follows like what it took for a woman to get opportunity to be a writer. And I don't think we talk about this or understand this enough. Is like, my mom's generation they couldn't even have credit cards sometimes. So definitely really good writing. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And Surrender, I got to tell you, Surrender from Bono is one remarkable, talk about an index story. Okay. It's 500 and some pages, but I think the beauty of it is the heart and how he really digs in and opens up and reveals what this rock star life is. He's got players in there from Sinatra, Johnny Cash, the freaking Bill Clinton. Like it's just talk about one big life well lived.
Surrender. I've got it in here as well. Here we go. So we got Good Girls Revolt and Surrender. So please pick up those books. And
I got to plug theater. I just went with my mama. Carole King, beautiful.
I'll put it in the middle there, Julia. Put it in the middle of the camera there. What? Because we couldn't see it. Hold that back. Yeah, it's the Carole King musical.
And I have to tell you, my mom, I swear, is Carole King. I was listening to Tapestry. She always gets me crying a little bit. And just the heart. I always say my dad's a mountain of a man and my mom's an ocean of a heart.
Oh my God. Very well said.
Thanks.
No, it's beautiful.
How about you? You got one for me?
I've got one for you. At the moment, I just got it up here, actually. Here we go. Where is it? You'd be proud of me, Julia. Reading it for the 4th time. Green light. I just love the stories in this book. And
all right.
All right. And
wait, now let me ask you. Good.
One of my favorite stories is not many people know he came to Australia as a young boy and worked at the ANZ Bank and found a family who was absolutely crazy called the Dooleys who looked after him. When you read that chapter, anyone who reads this book, let me know, because I was laughing hysterically when he told me about his experience of working in Australia and living in the outback with that crazy family. And apologies if one of the Dooley families is watching this now, but gosh, you made for some great reading, let me tell you.
I'll give you two things about that book that has lingered with me.
Mm-hmm.
One, leave your stink on it. Can we talk about that?
We can, please.
So McConaughey goes to Africa, has this big fight. He's like in the middle. He's trying to get lost as far as like his, go to a place where he's not recognized. And he's in like the heart of the Congo or something. And he ends up in this fight. And then I think he beats one person and then it's another one. And it's like, a big fight. And you can just imagine a white man in the middle of Congo, trying to take out the master. And McConaughey, those triceps, man, I don't know. He wins, but he has this thing about make sure you leave your stink. And I think it doesn't just apply to fighting. It applies to own your brand and make sure that you speak up and you put yourself out there and you leave your stink. You leave your unique essence, not just the Greek choirs. The last thing I'll say on that one is two times he meets his wife the first or the second time. I forget what the two times it's a wet dream that he follows to self-actualize. That's Matthew McConaughey, man.
It's so many lessons in that book, and one of my favorite ones is when he had a Range Rover car. It was dirty, it was old, but it used to have a radio on it, and he used to get in on the parking lot and he'd go, "There's Mr. Scotty's looking good today. Look at that t-shirt." Or there's Susie Q, loving it. Hello, Susie. And he used to make people laugh. He used to bring joy to people's lives. And then he saw a red sports car and he thought, I'll look really good on that. I'll trade it in. He traded his old beater upper in and he got this red sports car. And instead of, engaging with the outside world, he just leaned on the sports car and he realized that he didn't have as many friends, not many people who were engaging with him. And it's a great example of when you just lean on surface things and you just do things for the show, and they're not there from the heart center, as you talk about, it's not the same, and it's disingenuous, and people can spot it a mile away. I think he ended up trading in that red car for his old car to get the radio back and be that authentic self. I think that's a great lesson that people can walk away with as well from that book.
It's great.
Now, where can people find you, Julia? Where are you hanging out the most? Where are you engaged right now?
Right now, I'm very much LinkedIn. I haven't really explored other channels and my YouTube channel.
Please.
But soon, and I will make you aware of it. I'm hoping to have a medium and some creative craft exercises going on that should be exciting.
Fantastic. Well, Julia, you're a blessing to the world. Keep shining brightly, and we cannot wait to see your book, The Place Between, out in cinemas once it's made into a movie, in the bookstores. And you just, letting people shine their own stories and bringing them out into the world as well. It's fantastic.
Cullen, you're really, really a gem. Thank you.
My pleasure. Have a great Friday, everyone. Make it count and enjoy your weekend. All the best, everyone. Take care.
Lots of green lights.
Lots of green lights. All right. Green light.